The Velthrani had ruled their part of space for 10,000 years. They were an old race, and proud race. Their bodies were tall and thin, covered in hard shells like insects. Their eyes were large and made of many small parts. They could see things other races could not. For all those thousands of years, the Velthrani believed they were better than everyone else. They looked at younger races the way a king might look at ants, with cold eyes, with no feeling, sometimes with hate. When humans first came to the stars, the Velthrani laughed at them. They called humans emotional primitives. They said humans were too soft, too weak, too full of feelings. In the Great Galactic Council, the Velthrani voted against humans 3 times. They did not want humans to join. They did not want humans at all. Give them 100 years, the Velthrani ambassador had said. They will destroy themselves. Creatures ruled by emotion always do. The other races listened. Many believed him. The Velthrani were old and wise. Surely they knew best. But the Velthrani had made a terrible mistake. In all their years of pride, they had never made friends. They had never helped anyone. They had never asked for help. They stood alone because they believed they needed no one. Then the Keth swarm came. No one knew where the Keth came from. They appeared from the dark space between galaxies. Millions of ships, billions of soldiers. They did not talk. They did not make deals. They only consumed. They ate worlds. They ate races. They ate everything. And they came for Velthara Prime. Ambassador Kethvol stood in a broken bunker beneath the capital city. The ground shook as bombs fell above. Dust rained from the ceiling. Lights flickered and died. In the darkness, he could hear the screams of his people. The military was gone. The great Velthrani fleet, which had protected them for 10,000 years, had been destroyed in 3 days. The orbital defense platforms were burning metal, falling from the sky. There was nothing left. Kethvol walked through the underground shelters. His legs felt heavy. His heart beat too fast. Everywhere he looked, he saw his people waiting to die. 12 million of them. 12 million civilians who had never hurt anyone. Old ones who had lived for hundreds of years. Young ones who had not yet seen their first summer. Families holding each other. Workers, teachers, artists. All of them trapped under the ground while death rained from above. A young female Velthrani sat against a wall, holding 3 small children close to her body. Her eyes met Kethvol's eyes. She did not speak. She did not need to. He could see the question in her face. Is anyone coming to save us? Kethvol looked away. He could not answer her. He knew the truth. No one was coming. Why would they? The Velthrani had never helped anyone. They had pushed away every hand of friendship. They had mocked every race that tried to be kind. Now they would die alone. A communication officer ran up to him. The young soldier was shaking. Ambassador, we sent a distress signal. On all channels. To everyone. Kethvol made a bitter sound. It was almost a laugh. No one will answer. But sir, someone might... Who? Kethvol turned on him with anger in his voice. The Rathani? We refused to help them when the plague came. The Morocks? We blockaded their trade routes for 50 years. The humans? He laughed again, and this time it hurt. We have called them vermin, infestation. We told the whole galaxy they were worthless primitives who would destroy themselves. The young soldier said nothing. There was nothing to say. Kethvol walked back to the observation room. Through a small window he could see the sky. It was red with fire. Keth's ships moved like insects across the clouds, dropping death on everything below. 10,000 years. That was how long the Velthrani had existed. They had built cities that touched the sky. They had created art that made other races weep. They had discovered secrets of the universe that no one else knew. And now it would all end, not with glory, not with honor, but with fire and screaming and a slow death in dark shelters while the universe looked away. Kethvol closed his eyes. He thought of all the races the Velthrani had treated badly, all the hands they had slapped away, all the kindness they had refused. He understood now. Pride was not strength. Pride was a wall that kept help out. But understanding came too late. Far away in a part of space the Velthrani had never cared about, a small human patrol ship picked up the distress signal. The captain read it twice. Then he sent it to his commanders. The message traveled fast, from ship to ship, from station to station, until it reached the desk of Admiral Helena Vance. She was 57 years old. She had gray in her hair and lines on her face. She had served humanity for 30 years. She had fought in 2 wars. She had buried friends. She had held dying soldiers in her arms. She read the message from Velthara Prime. She read about 12 million civilians, about children, about old ones who could not fight, about a proud race dying alone because no one cared enough to help. She thought about everything the Velthrani had done to humanity, every insult, every vote against them, every time they had called humans primitive and worthless. Then she thought about those children in the shelters. She picked up her communicator and called her fleet. The Velthrani did not know it yet, but someone had heard their cry. Someone was coming, and that someone was human. Admiral Helena Vance stood on the bridge of her ship, the UEN Prometheus. It was the biggest ship in the 7th Fleet. Around her, officers worked at their stations. Screens glowed with information. The hum of engines filled the air. She held a datapad in her hands. On it was the distress signal from Velthara Prime. She had read it 5 times now. Each time the words felt heavier. 12 million civilians. Under attack. No military left. Requesting any assistance. Commander Chen walked up beside her. He was her second in command. A good man. Smart. Loyal. But right now his face was hard as stone. The Velthrani, he said. The word came out like something bitter. You know what they did to us, Admiral. I know. They voted against us in the council. 3 times. They said we were too primitive to join galactic society. I know. Lieutenant Okafor spoke from her station. She was young, but she had fire in her eyes. They blockaded our colony ships at Tau Ceti. 50,000 people stuck in space for 3 months. 200 died. Children died. Because the Velthrani wanted to teach us our place. Admiral Vance said nothing. She remembered Tau Ceti. She remembered the faces of the families when they finally got through. The anger, the grief, the children who would never see their parents again. High Command sent orders, Chen continued. We are to observe and report. Nothing more. The Keth are not our enemy, and the Velthrani are certainly not our friends. Vance looked at the datapad again. 12 million. It was just a number. But numbers were made of people. Real people with lives and families and dreams. Do we have sensor data from the planet? She asked. An officer pulled it up on the main screen. The bridge went quiet. Velthara Prime was burning. Great clouds of smoke covered whole continents. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now ruins. Keth ships filled the sky like a swarm of locusts, and beneath the surface, in deep shelters, the life signs of 12 million beings blinked like small scared lights. They are dying, Vance said softly, slowly, one by one. With respect, Admiral, Chen said, they would let us die. They would watch and do nothing. They have said so many times. Yes, they would. Vance walked to the front of the bridge. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, children were huddled in the dark, waiting for death. They had never voted against humanity. They had never called anyone primitive. They were just children. She thought about her own grandchildren back on Earth. Little Maria, who was 7, young Thomas, who had just learned to walk. What would she want someone to do if they were trapped in a dark shelter while the sky burned? She knew the answer. She had always known. Commander Chen, she said, her voice calm and clear, set course for Velthara Prime. All ships, best possible speed. The bridge went silent. Officers turned to look at her. Some had surprise on their faces. Some had anger. Some had something else. Something that looked almost like hope. Chen stared at her. Admiral, our orders. I know our orders. Vance turned to face him. I also know that there are 12 million people dying right now. People who cannot fight. People who never did anything to us. And I know that if we do nothing, we will have to live with that choice for the rest of our lives. High Command will not be happy. High Command is not here. I am. She looked around the bridge at her officers. I will not order anyone to come with me. This is my choice, my responsibility. If you want to stay behind, I will not blame you. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Lieutenant Okafor stood up from her station. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was strong. My grandmother came from Nigeria. She used to tell me a story about a man who found a stranger dying on the road. Everyone else walked past. But this man stopped. He helped. Even though the stranger was from a tribe that hated his people, she looked at Vance. She said that is what makes us human, not walking past. One by one, other officers stood. Chen was the last. He looked at Vance for a long moment. Then he nodded. Setting course for Velthera Prime, he said. All ships, best possible speed. The fleet turned. 17 ships, 5,000 humans. They were not the biggest fleet. They were not the strongest. But they were going anyway. Vance opened a channel to all ships. Her voice went out to every soldier, every pilot, every medic in the fleet. This is Admiral Vance. You all know where we are going. You all know what we might find there. The Velthrani have never been kind to us. They have called us primitive. They have tried to keep us down. Many of you have good reasons to hate them. She paused, took a breath. But hatred is easy. Walking past is easy. Today we are going to do something hard. We are going to help people who would not help us. We are going to save people who do not like us. We are going to show the galaxy what humanity really is. She looked out at the stars. Not because they deserve it, because we do. Because this is who we are. Because when there are children dying in the dark, humans do not look away. She ended the transmission. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, toward Velthera Prime, toward fire and death in a battle they might not win. Behind them, the stars watched in silence. Ahead of them, 12 million souls waited without hope. But hope was coming. It wore a human face, and it was not going to stop. The 7th Fleet came out of hyperspace and flew straight into hell. Admiral Vance stood on the bridge and watched the screens. Her face showed nothing, but inside her heart went cold. The Keth swarm was everywhere. Thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. They covered the sky above Velthara Prime like a black cloud. Their ships were ugly things, part metal and part living flesh, and they moved with terrible purpose. The planet below was dying. Fires burned across every continent. Great cities were now piles of broken stone, and still the Keth kept coming, dropping bombs, sending soldiers, eating everything. Admiral, an officer said, his voice shaking, we are very outnumbered. I can see that. Vance opened a communication channel. She broadcast on all frequencies so the Keth would hear her. Keth vessels, this is Admiral Helena Vance of the United Earth Navy. We have no part in your war with the Velthrani. We are here only to take civilians away, people who cannot fight. Let us do this, and we will leave in peace. She waited. The bridge was silent. Everyone held their breath. The answer came as a wave of attack ships. Hundreds of small Keth fighters turned toward the human fleet. They did not want to talk. They only wanted to kill. Vance nodded slowly. So that is how it will be. She turned to her officers. All ships, weapons free. Transports, stay behind us. The moment we make a path to the planet, you go down and get those people. Every single one of them. The battle began. It was not a fair fight. The humans were like a small boat in a storm of sharks. Keth ships came at them from every direction. Weapons fire lit up the darkness. Ships exploded. People died. But the humans did not run. The Prometheus led the charge. Its guns roared without stopping. Vance gave orders in a calm voice, moving her ships like pieces on a game board. She had fought many battles in her life. She knew tricks the Keth did not expect. She sent small ships to attack from one side, making the Keth turn. Then the big ships hit from behind. She used broken Velthrani defense platforms as shields. She made the Keth think she was running, then turned and hit them when they followed. Every minute felt like an hour. Every explosion was a friend dying. But slowly, slowly, the humans pushed through. Transport ships, go now, Vance shouted. Get to the surface. 10 transport ships dove toward the planet. They were not warships. They had few weapons. They were made to carry people, not to fight. Keth fighters chased them, guns blazing. The destroyer Resolute moved to protect them. It was a small ship with a brave crew. Commander Torres stood on its bridge, watching the Keth fighters getting closer to the transports. "They will not make it," his first officer said. Torres looked at the transports. He thought about who was on the planet below. Millions of people. Children. "Yes, they will," he said. He turned to his crew. "All power to engines. Set collision course for that Keth carrier." His crew understood. Some of them cried, but no one refused. The Resolute flew straight at the biggest Keth ship in its path. The carrier tried to move, but it was too slow. The human destroyer hit it at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. Every soul on the Resolute died. But the transports got through. On the surface, human soldiers jumped out before the transports even landed. They ran into the shelters, shouting in broken Velthrani language they had learned on the way. "Come with us! Move now! We are taking you away!" The Velthrani stared at them. They could not believe what they were seeing. Humans, the primitives, the ones they had hated and mocked for so long, here in the middle of death, reaching out their hands. An old Velthrani female stood frozen. A young human marine grabbed her arm, gentle but firm. "Please, we have to go," he said. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his head. His armor was burned. He looked like he had walked through fire, because he had. "Why?" the old female asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why would you help us?" The Marine was young, maybe 20 years old. He had grown up hearing stories about how the Velthrani hated humans, but right now all he saw was a scared old woman who needed help. He smiled at her, a real smile, warm and kind. "Because someone has to," he said. "Now please, come on." He helped her onto the transport. Then he went back for more. All across the shelters it was the same. Human soldiers carried Velthrani children in their arms. They helped old ones who could not walk. They guided the scared and the confused and the wounded onto the ships. Above them, the battle raged on. More human ships died. The Keth kept coming, but the transports kept flying. Up and down, taking thousands of Velthrani each time. Admiral Vance watched the numbers on her screen. 11 million saved. 11,200,000. 11,400,000. Each number was a life. Each number was worth a ship, worth everything. "Admiral, we cannot hold much longer," Chen said. His face was gray with exhaustion. "How many are still on the surface?" "Last transport is loading now." Vance looked at her fleet. Half her ships were gone. The rest were damaged. But they had done it. "All ships, fall back. Cover the last transport. Then we run." The human fleet gathered around the final transport as it rose from the burning planet. The Keth chased them, firing without mercy. But the humans held the line. The last transport reached the fleet. The jump drives powered up. In a flash of light, the human fleet vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, Velthara Prime burned. But 11 million of its people were alive, because humans had come for them. The human ships were not built to carry Velthrani. The air was too warm. The lights were too bright. The food was made for human stomachs, not Velthrani ones. Everything was wrong, but 11 million Velthrani were alive. They filled every space on every ship. They sat in cargo holds. They lay in hallways. They crowded into rooms that were never meant for so many bodies. The ships were full beyond what should have been possible, and yet no one complained. At least no human did. Ambassador Kethvol walked through the refugee holds on the Prometheus. His legs were weak. His mind was tired. But he needed to see. He needed to understand. What he saw changed him. In one corner, a human medic worked on a wounded Velthrani soldier. The medic had not slept in 2 days. Her hands were shaking. But she kept working, studying Velthrani bodies she had never seen before. Learning as she went, refusing to let anyone die. "I do not understand your blood," she said to the soldier, "but I will figure it out, I promise. Just stay with me." In another area, human soldiers had given up their beds. They slept on the hard floor of the hallway so that old Velthrani could rest in comfort. No one had ordered them to do this. They just did it. A cook worked in the small kitchen for hours and hours. He had never cooked for Velthrani before. Their bodies could not eat what humans ate. So he tried again and again, mixing different things. testing them carefully until he found something that Velthrani could swallow without getting sick. It does not taste good, he admitted to a young Velthrani child, but it will keep you alive. I will make it better tomorrow. I promise. The child looked up at him with those large compound eyes. Then slowly she reached out and touched his hand. The cook smiled. His eyes became wet. He patted her small clawed fingers gently. You are going to be okay, he said. We have got you now. Kethvil watched all of this. He watched humans give away their food. He watched them share their water. He watched them work until they fell down from tiredness, then get up and work more. He had spent his whole life believing humans were primitive, emotional, weak. He had given speeches about how their feelings made them inferior, how their softness would destroy them. Now he saw the truth. Their feelings did not make them weak. Their feelings gave them strength. They cared so much that they could not stop. They felt so deeply that they would die for strangers. This was not weakness. This was something the Velthrani had never understood. Kethvil found Admiral Vance on the bridge. She sat in her chair, a cup of cold coffee in her hand. She had dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she might fall over at any moment. Admiral, he said. She looked up at him. Her eyes were tired, but still sharp. Ambassador, is something wrong? Do your people need something? Even now, after everything, she asked if they needed help. Kethvil felt something strange in his chest. Humans called it shame. I need to ask you something, he said. I need to understand. Ask. Why? The word came out broken. We have treated you terribly. We have called you primitive. We have blocked your way at every turn. We have tried to keep you small and weak. Why would you save us? Vance was quiet for a long moment. She looked out at the stars through the bridge window. Do you have children, Ambassador? I have a daughter. She is on one of your ships. When you look at her, do you see her as Velthrani, or do you just see your child? Kethvil thought about this. I see my child. Vance nodded slowly. When I look at those people in my cargo holds, I do not see Velthrani. I see scared families. I see children who do not understand why their world is burning. I see old ones who just want to rest. I see people, Ambassador. Just people. She took a sip of her cold coffee and made a face. You are right that your government has treated us badly. Your council has said terrible things about us. But those people down there did not do that. They were just living their lives. They do not deserve to die for what their leaders did. But you lost ships. You lost soldiers. Your people died for us. Yes, Vance's voice became soft. They did, and I will carry that weight forever. But I will not carry the weight of doing nothing. I could not look at my grandchildren again if I let 12 million people die because their leaders were cruel to us. Kethvil's legs gave out. He fell to his knees on the bridge floor. His body shook. In Velthrani culture, this was the deepest form of respect. No Velthrani had ever kneeled to another race. I am sorry, he said. His voice cracked. For everything my people have done. I am so sorry. Vance stood up. She walked over to him. Then slowly she reached down and put her hand on his shoulder. Get up, Ambassador. You do not need to kneel to me. I do not know how to thank you. Vance smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. Then do not thank me. Just remember this. Remember what happened here. And if you ever see someone who needs help, someone who maybe does not deserve it, maybe you will understand why humans stop anyway. She helped him to his feet. We have a saying on Earth, she said. Today you, tomorrow me. It means we are all connected. What I do for you today, someone might do for me tomorrow. We help because one day we might need help too. Kethvil looked at her. This human woman, this primitive, this emotional creature who had risked everything for people who hated her. Today you, he repeated slowly, tomorrow me. Vance nodded. Now go be with your daughter, Ambassador. We still have a long way to go. Kethvil walked off the bridge. His mind was full of new thoughts, new feelings, things he had never felt before. Behind him, Admiral Vance sat back in her chair and closed her eyes. She was tired, so very tired. But in the cargo holds below, 11 million souls were breathing. 11 million hearts were beating. That was worth everything. The human fleet reached Sanctuary Station 3 weeks after the battle. The ships came out of hyperspace slowly, one by one. They were broken things now, burned and bleeding. Half of them could barely fly. 4 ships had been lost completely. 1,100 humans had died. They would never go home to their families. They would never see Earth again. They had given everything. But behind them, in cargo holds and hallways and every small space, 11 million Velthrani were alive. News of what happened had spread across the galaxy. Every race, every planet, every station knew the story. The humans had gone into fire to save people who hated them. They had lost friends and ships for strangers who had called them vermin. No one could understand why. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from 100 races gathered in the Great Hall. The room was huge, with seats rising up in circles around a central floor. Lights floated in the air. Screens showed the faces of leaders watching from far away. On one side sat the human delegation. Admiral Vance was with them. She wore her dress uniform, clean and pressed. But nothing could hide the tiredness in her eyes. Nothing could hide the weight she carried. On the other side sat the remaining Velthrani leadership. Ambassador Kethvol was at the front. His shell was dull with stress. His eyes never left the floor. The council chairman, a tall being made of living crystal, called for silence. "We are here to discuss the events at Velthara Prime," he said. "The human fleet entered Velthrani space without permission. They engaged the Keth swarm without orders from this council. Many demand to know why." The human ambassador stood. Her name was Dr. Sarah Chen. She was small and old, but her voice was strong. "We went because people were dying. We did not ask permission because there was no time. Every minute we waited, more civilians died. Our admiral made a choice. I stand behind that choice." Voices rose from the council. Some were angry, some were confused. The Rathani delegates shouted that humans had broken galactic law. The Moroc's representative demanded to know what humans expected in return. Then Ambassador Kethvol stood. The room went silent. Everyone watched the Velthrani. For 10,000 years, his people had been the proudest race in the galaxy. They had looked down on everyone. They had never admitted they were wrong about anything. Kethvol walked to the center of the floor. His steps were slow. His body was bent. He looked like a different being than the proud ambassador he had once been. "For 10,000 years," he began, his voice quiet but clear, "my people believed we were the greatest race in the galaxy. We thought our age made us wise. We thought standing alone made us strong. We thought mercy was weakness and compassion was primitive." He stopped. His large eyes looked around the room. "We were fools." Whispers ran through the council. No Velthrani had ever spoken this way. "The humans came for us," Kethvol continued. "They came even though we had treated them terribly, even though we had called them vermin, even though we had tried to keep them from the stars." His voice broke. "They came anyway. They died for us. 1,100 of them gave their lives for people who would have watched them burn." He turned toward the human delegation. "I watched their soldiers carry our children to safety. I watched their medics work until they fell down, then get up and work more. I watched their admiral refuse to leave until every civilian was on a ship." He paused. "I asked her why. Do you know what she said?" The room was completely silent. "She said, 'Today you, tomorrow me.' She said that humans help because they might need help someday too, because we are all connected." Kethavol's voice grew stronger. "This is not primitive. This is not weak. This is the greatest strength I have ever seen." He turned to face the full council. "The Velthrani sovereignty wishes to formally request an alliance with the United Earth government. A full alliance, military, economic, cultural, everything." He looked at the human delegation. "And I personally beg for your forgiveness, for how we treated you, for everything." Then Ambassador Kethvol did something no Velthrani had ever done before a younger race. He kneeled. He bent his tall body down until his head touched the floor. The council erupted. Delegates shouted. Some were angry. Some were amazed. Many simply could not believe what they were seeing. But the humans were quiet. Admiral Vance stood up. She walked across the floor to where Kethvol kneeled. The room fell silent, watching. Vance reached down and took Kethvol's arm. Gently, she helped him stand. On behalf of the human people, she said, I accept your alliance, and I accept your apology. She looked into his compound eyes. Today you, tomorrow me, Ambassador. That is how it works. Kethavol's eyes were wet. He did not know Velthrani could cry until that moment. In the seats above, the Velthrani survivors watched. Families who had been saved, children who had been carried to safety, old ones who had been given beds by human soldiers. They rose to their feet, one by one, then all together. They began to make a sound. It was a Velthrani sign of respect, a humming that came from deep in their bodies. It filled the great hall like a song. Other races joined in, the Rathani, the Morocks, others who had seen what humans did. The sound grew and grew until the whole council chamber vibrated with it. Admiral Vance stood in the middle of it all. She thought about the ships she had lost, the friends who had died, the families who would never be whole again. Was it worth it? She looked at the Velthrani survivors, at the children who would grow up now, at the old ones who would see another sunrise, at a proud race that had finally learned what really mattered. She thought about what humanity had shown the galaxy. Not strength through weapons, not power through fear, but something else, something deeper. The strength to be kind when kindness was hard, the power to help those who did not deserve it. Yes, it was worth it. This was humanity. This was who they were. They were not perfect. They were not the oldest or the strongest or the wisest. But when the darkness came, they ran toward it. When people cried for help, they answered, even when it cost them everything. The council session ended. Treaties would be signed. Alliances would be made. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Vance walked out of the Great Hall. Outside, she found a window that looked out at the stars. She stood there for a long time, watching the lights in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Keth were still coming. There would be more battles, more hard choices, more friends lost. But humanity would not face it alone anymore. They had shown the galaxy who they were, and the galaxy had finally seen. Today you, tomorrow me. That was the human way, and it had changed everything.